My name is William Nemec, and I'm from Healy, Alaska. I'm a homesteader farmer, and I'm here in Southeast Asia in exile. And I've been really struggling and trying to learn how to apply myself to you in Alaska. And what I want to tell you is that many Alaskans have been damaged the controlling interests of the government. If you're not of a special belief or in agreement with the Superior Court and the structure in the Alaskan government that's currently in power, they use massive intelligence and surveillance and things to force you away. Many companies have left Alaska, and so today is my birthday. I'm very happy. This is my new building. I built a building here in Southeast Asia because I love my farm in Alaska and my way of life, and I'm fighting to get it back. They illegally have taken my land and violated my rights in court over and over and over. But in my heritage, I'm a strong Christian and I have a Mennonite background, and I don't believe in violence, and I believe in fighting with a way that's nonviolent. And so I've had many struggles, and I love Alaska and my neighbors and my way of life. And so I'm in Southeast Asia, in Mindanao, and the government here has been very good to me. And I'm going to show you today my new building, and then this is the last frontier intelligence system that I'm making, and I want to show you my sign. And this is what I believe, and this is what I'm doing. And many of these signs will start showing up in Alaska. I'm pushing a real heavy campaign. You notice there's a typo. Another person of another language made the sign and they made a mistake. These signs that are coming to Alaska to be posted the spelling will be corrected. But I want to explain what I'm doing. I'm on YouTube, the Last Frontier Intelligence, and see, we want to put an end to the conflict of interest controlling lawyers. There's a list in Alaska that's not legal and used by law and used by all attorneys. When you go against a superior court in a certain way, a state in a certain way, you cannot have an attorney. I've taken this all the way to the U.S. District Attorney's Office in Alaska, and this thing is very bad, and I've had a lot of conflict with it. The reason it's on the sign is I'm going to expose the truth of how this thing works. And also on the end here it says, My demand is I want the state to purchase and return the nemec farm, my farm. They don't have any legal right to it, that the way they applied the law to me was so terrible. But they can get away with it because they control the upper courts. When the upper courts are controlled in Alaska, they force business to leave, they force people to go out of business, they are very damaging, and you can't do nothing. You got no higher court to go to. You go to federal court, the U.S. District Attorney, it's not going to work because they're all incompetents. And it's getting really difficult for me, but I believe this. If you love America and love your country, you're going to do what you can to preserve the Constitution and equal rights. And so I don't care about a political party so much as I care about the rule of law that works. The rule of law has to be working or we're not American. Anyway, I want to go through in my sign just to show you. It says here, remove social engineering and the monitoring of Alaskans. I will prove to you that Alaskans have files, and especially if you're in a conflict, they keep files on you and they do much intelligence to control you. And Alaska has some very, very things. Well, let me tell you about the good thing. At the end of the pipeline, I worked in law enforcement, and I have many friends that are in law enforcement in Alaska having a real struggle over this. I have many friends, retired state troopers and military police retired, and Alaska is a beautiful place with many dedicated people, and I'm condemn a lot of things that are happening in law enforcement, but not the people. We have the best law enforcement officers there are, and many of them have had a real struggle within their job. And I don't want to be hard on law enforcement in Alaska, but some are not good because some, of course, are doing things that are wrong, but mostly Alaska is a beautiful place with the best people there are. Anyway, I want to get into this a little bit. Protest Alaskan Bush residents from the UN Agenda 21. UN Agenda 21 is the reason and the foundation of many things that are happening in the Alaskan government. And there's Alaskan government people that believe in This word is very important, ladies and gentlemen. It's called colonial dialectics. Colonial dialectics is a movement of Marxism to run the world order through the UN. It's called colonial dialectics. Anyway, if you've seen on the sign here, Agenda 21, and the Utah Political Controlling Agenda. There's a basic society in Alaska that have much power in the court system. They have a Utah Foundation, and they believe in building a one world dynasty also. So these two groups of ideas and thinking have united in Alaska. And I will go later, and I'm going to get too much in this right now because I just want to show you my sign, my building, and then I will teach more about it later. But anyway, that's the reason it's on here. It's because Alaska, the Alaska court system is run very, very corrupt. And anyway, so I'm in Mindanao, and this is my email address in Southeast Asia, I'm in the mountains. Anyway, and one thing I want to point out for you to try to understand the reasoning of this and how it can happen. In the state of Mississippi, in 1956, they passed a law, Mississippi Sovereignty Commission, and they were prejudiced against black people and keeping control of society in their own way of thinking. Well, the idealism behind controlling the way of thinking that violates the Constitution of the United States and violates people's rights can be handled by a state government, and the state government can be corrupt, and they can do this. And this has happened in Alaska. The idea of why people come to Alaska to be free, the last frontier, and sovereignty of the individual, there's another half of the population that want exactly the opposite. And so they are in control in the government, and they have in place laws. Many things are all entangled, and they work the very same way in a violation of a right or an idea that happened in Mississippi in 1956. It was in 1956 till 1977, pushed within the federal government and coming even down from the President of the United States, broke it up and changed the state of Mississippi at that time. In Alaska today, they're not going to be prejudiced against a minority, but they are prejudiced against the man that loves the Constitution and comes to Alaska to be free in the last frontier, to live the way that he wants, because Alaskan way of life is beautiful, and it is the last frontier. This conflict of interest and ideas has gotten to the point where people like me have to run. I'm not the only one that's have to leave Alaska, and I'm not the only one that lost everything, but I believe in the Lord Jesus, and I believe that you got to stand up and make the law work. And I am here in another country because I can't come back. I've had friends with the retired state troopers and with the military, federal police, and I ran for governor in this last term, and I know what's happening in the inner workings of the government. And in my past, I'm older, so I knew Bob Bettisworth, and I knew Bobby Miller, and I knew many people, Joe Vogler, and Dr. Wood at the university, and Mayor Bill Wally, and I worked all of my life in Alaska to preserve our right as a rural Alaskan, to come to Alaska and be free, to be sovereign, and to have a good way of life. And now it's under attack. I had to leave here, and I was here 2 times in exile. I went back, I built a new company, and then I got in trouble with the Superior Court again. Many rulings that were absolutely not legitimate, but they have the absolute power to force and control in Alaska. There's an agenda in Alaska that's not open to the public, but I assure you, they have surveillance files on public people and how to work people. And if you look at what happened in Mississippi, the government also there had files, and they've opened the files up now, and you can see. So when you have an inner workings of a state government that is out of control, and they believe in socialism, Agenda 21, and world dominance movement, the same thing is making a problem in Russia and China. This is happening in Alaska. So the reason, today is my birthday, April 24th, and I just turned 68 today, and this is my new building, and I'm going to fight back, but I got to do it God's way by my faith. I'm not aggressive. I don't believe in violence, but I believe in the rule of law, and I believe you have to be strong and smart and stand up and make it work. So anyway, but there is a typo on the sign. The signs I'm sending to Alaska will be all corrected. Now, as I make these things, I'm on the edge of nowhere here, so there's not much technology. None of these videos will be edited or change. They will be exactly the way they are, the way that you see them. And I just wanted to make my introduction statement that I have a new building now, and I'm working very hard. This is all made out of cement, and very few buildings of this condition here. And I want to do my best job, protect the right of rural Alaskan to be free, to come to Alaska, to be able to work with an opportunity the way he wants to work, and a right to be what he wants to be. And when you're dealing with DNR and everything like this, there's many, many problems that exist today. But believe this, if you're an Alaskan, you need to love your government and love people in law enforcement, because there's corruption doesn't mean that everybody is bad. So you shouldn't hate government, but you need to dislike what's happened. Now, Mississippi, they had a real problem with this from 1956 all the way to 1977. There was an alien way to violate the Constitution to keep people in power for their own special interests. And it ran the state many times. There were many murders and many crimes. In Alaska, there's been many crimes already and murders, and I want to show this. I don't believe in conspiracy theories. I will show you methods and how it was done and when it was done. I know of cases where judges have wiretapped in the state of Alaska in a court case. I will show all these things, and I don't believe in conspiracies. When I show you something, because I love the Lord, and you're going to see a fact that you can look up. Because the only way to have freedom is to stand up and ask the Lord to bless you and make it work. And that's why I'm in Southeast Asia. In exile is to come back to Alaska. I want to go home. I want my farm back. I want to be left alone. But if I don't take my stand, nobody else is going to be able to be free and have their rights. So I have friends that had trucking companies and small construction companies. They're gone. They got so much conflict because in Alaska, the Alaska Independence Party upset everybody very much, and a Libertarian Party before that. So there's massive intelligence in Alaska and massive corruption, but there's massive love, and there's greatest place to live. So anyway, I'm going to show you more sequences of this as I'm going, and I'll see you again on the next time we return. And I didn't show it, but that's I just got done building it, and it's very nice inside. And I'm also a ham radio operator, and I got my antenna, and I'm getting my license from the Philippine government of Mindanao. And anyway, there's my building, and I will go back to the movie in a few minutes. Thank you. Okay, well, I'm inside the building now, and the point of this whole program and the YouTube is to fix the problem that we have in Alaska, the reason I'm in exile and don't have anything also. Anyway, I want to review the last of the political campaign as governor before I come back over here, so you kind of understand why I left in a hurry. I was campaigning for governor, and I went out to Fort Wainwright to the VA hospital, and when I got out there, the federal policeman found me, and they said they needed to talk to me. And what happened was, they said, "Mr. Nemec, do you know there's warrants for you?" And I said, "Absolutely no, not at all. I don't break the law. I didn't do anything. There shouldn't be." And then, so they said that there was a warrant for me for a trespass, or a threat of a trespass to a place called Sled Road. So we thought Sled Road was in North Pole, so we call over, and it's not at North Pole. And then finally, after a lot of research, we find that Sled Road is the name of the road that's by my farm that was newly named, and I didn't know it was named. But anyway, I'm campaigning heavy, and I'm having a lot of things going the wrong way. And then in the middle of this, I get this thing going on. So they are connected, if the federal police are connected with the FBI and Alaska State Troopers. So then I get on the phone and I call 3 hours to the Alaska State Troopers, to dispatchers. I want an answer. I want to know why you would have a warrant for me. What are you doing? How come you don't call me? What is the source? What is your reason? I have no idea. And I'm pretty upset. It takes 3 hours. Finally, an Alaska State Trooper talks to me. And he says, Mr. Nemec, everything we did is legal. If you have any questions, you need to get a lawyer. They wouldn't make any response. And then, anyway, so I go down to Anchorage, and I'm campaigning down there, and things are really heating up. Well, I was in a court battle at the same time, and then that got kicked in for a real quick court date, and I had my whole campaign kind of got tripped up. So anyway, then I find out there might be another warrant for stalking, and that's really crazy now. I'm not stalking anybody, but anyway, so things got worse and worse and faster, and I have a lot of friends that are retired state troopers and the military who are helping me, and I've been through a lot of different political things. I went to the Attorney General's office a few days earlier, and I told him that what was happening, that I don't have due process of law. I'm not allowed to select an attorney. I'm on a conflict of interest list. And I said, even though it's not openly told to anybody, it's totally illegal. And I told him about my past history and everything. The reason I'm bringing this up to you now is trying to get you up to date of why I am out of the campaign for governor. Anyway, when I first started the campaign for governor, I asked for the paperwork, and friends of mine went and got it because it wasn't there. And I had to get over 70,000 signatures to get on the ballot. Well, when I started doing this process, I go back and communicate with the state, and they say, oh, everything's changed. You don't do that now. You got to come back and get a different way to do it. So I go back, and then they got their crazy ABC election program, which is about as bad as you can get. I mean, if anybody manipulated an election, that thing had to be the world's record for election manipulation. Things terrible. Everybody can see that the social engineering is to keep main parties in power and not the individual to get a direct vote. And it is really a mess. We already have trouble in politics and elections in Alaska, and that there is the cream of the crop. There's no way that's going to hold up and stay legal, because it can't. But anyway, it got worse and worse. The reason I'm back in Mindanao is that things got hot in a hurry. When I got back into court, I had to discharge my lawyer to protect him, and then I came back over here. And it's very complicated. I can't cover all of that right now because it's I've been at this years, and now when I try to make appeal to the public, it sounds kind of crazy. So let me go over the beginning of me. I'm an Alaska homestead farmer. I've been here way over 30 years. I come up here to be free to farm like my ancestors have always done, and things got out of hand for a long time. I'm going to tell you that when I first came here, Alaska was a lot different than it is now. When I got here at the end of the pipeline, the Libertarian Party ran the state, and we had lots of constitutional rights, and we made, I remember the vote, we made marijuana legal the first time in America. 10 years later, they made it illegal again. But Alaska had been a place of the last frontier where free people have rights, and this is a way to have a new life and to start over. And but you got to understand something about a new frontier and people want to move for a new idea. There's two kinds of people in society that want to come up here. I'm in Alaska, I'm not there right now, but anyway, one of them is the person who wants to go out in the frontier and have a good life, build life anew, have a second chance, and do just like they did in the Western expansion. And Alaska, I'm going to tell you something, is the most beautiful place and has the greatest people in the world. Now, sometimes I'm in here, I'll complain about things that happen with law enforcement, but let me tell you something. I have friends that are state troopers, the finest men in the world, and many of them are now retired, and some of them have had to quit. But the thing of it is law enforcement and believing in the rule of law is important. So when you're going to hear my complaints about things, understand this one thing. I love the rule of law, and there's nothing wrong with lawfulness or to. I have a Mennonite background. I believe to love thy neighbor, in my opinion only, and I'm not representing any group or anything. If you love your neighbor, you're going to try to keep him protected by the law. That's what it's for. And I love Alaska. The finest people I know are retired troopers now, or some of them have passed away. But anyway, what I'm doing here in Mindanao is trying to find a way to get back home. Now, I can't just go there right now because I had to leave in early. I'm going to tell you some things. I do not believe in conspiracy theories. So when I come up with something and try to show you something, in the future, as I'm working on this program called Last Frontier Intelligence, I mean intelligence by learning how to look, hear, see, and think. Intelligence. And so we need to free up our state and clean up what's happening right now. And I can do more here than I was campaigning for governor if I am able to show enough love for my neighbor in my state to make it work. And so that's the point of today. This is my birthday today, opening of my new office. And I'm in the edge of the jungle in Mindanao, and it's a lot different climate here. I don't see any white people, hardly at all. And some places I go here, I'm told over and over, don't go, because there's a little bit of fighting sometimes, but it's not as dangerous to me right now here in the jungle than going to Alaska. But anyway, I want to point out some things. But one thing I want you to know, because I'll talk a lot about my belief in what I am, I'm absolutely not any representative of the Mennonite church. I love the Mennonite people and how they live, but it's not a religion like a power play or nothing. The Mennonite church and religion is about looking at yourself, keeping the sin out of your life, and keeping a clean heart and a clean life so you can show God's for others. There's no way that a Mennonite church will ever be a political pulpit or a program of power. The Mennonite church is a program of God's love. So when I talk about what I believe and how I see it, realize that it's my own opinion as an individual and how I was raised and what I believe. And I don't represent any other people falsely, and I don't want to. I love rural Alaska. You can pick on me for that one because I'm definitely a homesteader, and I'm definitely loving the way of life in the bush. So that there, you can hold me accountable. Anyway, let's look back a little bit, and I got some notes to tell you how all this started. Well, when I come to Alaska and got my land and started working on it, some threats came along from the government. It got worse and worse and worse. And so I had a meeting. I had some friends. One of them was Joe Vogler, and he was building of the AIP party. And one of them was Bobby Miller. He was the one that put the steel in Alaska pipeline. And another person I didn't know that I met with them in the middle of this was Dr. Wood at the university. Well, years ago, the government was trying to force local governments against the people's will to have power and be organized. And well, I fought it back. And at Sunset Inn in Fairbanks, Alaska, before the Down Alley Borough would come into power, Dr. Wood, Joe Vogler, and Bobby Miller and I had a meeting. And in this meeting, we drew up a thing called the Last Frontier Petition. And Dr. Wood took a placemat. We were trying to trouble stacking out all the notes and getting ideas. And he told the waitress, bring me one of them big placemats. It's a huge sheet of paper. You put your plates on there. He flipped it over and he broke it all down. And Dr. Wood laid us out there. And then when we started talking, I was so surprised about how much talent, how smart these people were. Joe Vogler was absolutely a genius, but I'm going to tell you, when we're talking about this, that Bobby Miller, he had to be one of the smartest people I ever met in my life. And when he laid out the rights of man, and the right to be free, and the right to build business, I mean, it was amazing. I thought that Thomas Jefferson was standing there. But anyway, we wrote the Last Frontier Petition. We went down and implemented it, and then it got into be a lot of trouble. So I put the petitions in Healy, Alaska, in Cantwell, Alaska, and then in Nenana, Alaska. This is a Wildcat petition. I don't have it with a copy of it in Alaska Records. I didn't file it with the record holder of the state district. It was a Wildcat petition, but having people's signature to prove that we didn't want the borough government. So what happened in the middle of this thing, we're campaigning, there's a woman named Lolly Medley and Jackie Wilson. These people are really poor, but they're going with their car and they're staying everywhere, getting signatures and talking to everybody, all the villages. And so in the middle of all of this thing, I go to Healy to pick up the petitions, and they're stolen. And I can't believe it. Yeah, a woman come in here and we know she stole them with me. So I go to Cantwell and it's stolen there. And this is pretty crazy. So in Nenana, Edmund Lord's mom, Amita Lord, she had a restaurant and she was handling a petition there. And a woman went around the till and got caught grabbing the petitions. Well, we didn't want to hold her because of the Alaska statute of holding somebody, even in attempt of a crime, it's a kidnap clause, so you got to be careful of the law. And I worked in law enforcement a little bit. I told them, don't you dare detain her. If you detain her, there's going to be another charge against you. And even though it's not ethical, it's powerful. And so they let her go. So Pastor Jim Ballweber in Nenana, Alaska, he called U.S. Marshals. And we talked to the U.S. Marshals and we explained to the gentleman that they'd stolen this petition and missing 200 pounds. We caught the woman and she said she worked for the state. And she was part of the state of Alaska. And then we let her go. So then the U.S. Marshal, he was a very nice man. And so remember this was a while back. This is in the beginning of the Denali Borough. So what happened was we go and we talked. The U.S. Marshal was a good officer. And he said he was getting ready to retire. And he said, it's definitely a violation of the law to steal a public petition. He said, and the petition is at odds with powers all around you. So he said he wanted to look into it. And he was going to come down and he calls us back. And he says, I believe in the law and I'm about ready to retire. He said, but I'm getting some opposition. The opposition says that I'm violating states' rights. And he said, no, it's violating people's rights. And he said he believes in the law and the Constitution. He's an older gentleman. And then he tells us, I'm going to go through with this, but I got a whole retirement coming in my career. And he said, it's on the rocks. He said, but we want to, he says, I want to do it. And then, so we got to thinking about all the risk and everything that happened and about this officer in his whole life. And we decided that, if you serve your whole life for your country and everything in the politics are bad, and you're going to lose everything you did all your life, and then on this issue, when, the officer is not doing anything wrong. So we called him back, and we said, look, we are really having a problem here, but we do not want you to lose your career and lose your retirement pension. If there's this much power or slander in the government, then you might lose. So we said, officer, sir, we really appreciate you coming, but don't come because we want you to get your retirement. And we did that. And maybe that was a mistake all these years later, because when there's infraction of law, you need to go through with it no matter what the cost or what the penalty or how much you lose or risk. The Constitution is worth more than the life of an individual, because the Constitution is the life of everyone to be free. And but I was a young man and realized this happened a long time ago, not like I am now. And we had a lot of compassion for the U.S. Marshals, so we didn't do anything. But I want to tell you about this, because this isn't the end of the relationship with the U.S. Marshals. And Lachlan, I'm talking about that. Let me tell you something about law enforcement. I had to deal with a lot of people over the last few years. And one of the finest officers in their organization that I worked with and talked to, even though sometimes they can't do anything because they can't, was the U.S. Marshals. They're tremendously good policemen, or law enforcement officers. They're amazing. I had problems with the FBI, but U.S. Marshals are absolutely excellent. And I'm going to tell you something. You should be proud of them. And they're fine. Some of the state troopers are fine. In fact, when I had troubles, I couldn't use the state troopers
because when they see the facts, what's really going on, they would be risking their career and their retirement and everything, because the state of Alaska is overlong power. Now, when we talk about social power and how our government can be wrong and have a wrong faction running the laws, I'm going to go to another point. So I want you to see how it happened in American history. Now, in America, we had another problem when the social system of the people's special interest overrode the Constitution and made a holy terror for a long time. And this law was passed in Mississippi in 1956. And the law stayed on the books until 1977, when the federal government come in there. They give them the big boot, and everybody got scared. But within this time in Mississippi, the South was changing, and the attitude and control in society about black people was on the line. And they didn't want the culture of the South to be destroyed. And there was militant people that were black people, because all people have militant people. White people are much more militant than most in the latter days in history. We're the worst. But anyway, so what happened in Mississippi was been a lot of murders and a lot of abuse, very terrible. And it finally come to a head, and society had enough. And the President of the United States stepped in, and it was all cleaned up. There wasn't a lot of prosecutions, but some of them went to prison for murder. But it doesn't happen. Now, let me tell you something about Alaskan politics. Anywhere in the world there's a political body, there's always an element that's trying to destroy. Alaska is a beautiful state. Many people that work for the state government are excellent people, hard workers with a lot of honor and integrity. So when I condemn government, I don't hate government, but I hate the things that's happening in Alaska in the current regime. Now, the word regime is important, so you need to see what I'm talking about. So anyway, as the Denali Borough progressed over the years, it got worse and worse. But in the beginning, when they first built it, we were fighting like crazy. The last frontier was stolen. A petition was stolen. So I ran for mayor, and I had a car accident. And then this friend of mine, Cecil Gates, come and got me and pulled my truck. And I was banged up a little bit. And I wasn't dead or nothing, of course, but I was hurting. Well, I worked for Yukon Koyukuk for a lot of years as for the school district in Yukon Koyukuk. At the same time, I was building my farm. And so a friend of mine I was working with was named Dee Dee, and her husband was a friend too. And we wanted him to run for mayor, so we took my papers, and we talked him into it. And that was a big mistake, because he had to leave the state. I mean, they come after him, you would not believe it. He got elected, but you're talking about this thing now. Remember what I just said about Mississippi? The Sovereign Commission. Well, this group in Alaska are just as deadly and just as powerful in the state government. And why I'm on this point is something you need to know. Many small contractors and businessmen in the last few years have had to leave Alaska because of what the Alaska Independence Party stood for and the push that Wally Hickel had put within the state. They come after that movement really strong. Now, ladies and gentlemen, when you come to Alaska, there's more than one group of people that want to go out to a new frontier where nothing has been touched and change it and build something. There's the man that loves America, wants to be free, wants to build his own way, wants to homestead, no laws, no government, no ruining him. But there's another huge society that can see that in the rest of the country they can't push pure socialism. They can't push pure ideology of that side. And so they come to Alaska too, and they see a frontier element that can be conquered, and they want to conquer it for religious purpose or for political, social purpose, and they are powerful. And that's the two odds in Alaska that fight each other. The rural Alaskan homesteader in the last few years has been beat down pretty big because of the media and all the money and power is against him, so they get a lot of suppressed media coverage, and Alaska's gotten really rough for that. But I'm telling you that if you have the heart to love your country, you're going to stand up and do the best that you can. And so that's why I'm here. It's cost me everything I have. But I'm going to tell you, I am so blessed by being Alaskan and what I've had my life in the bush with. It's worth everything that I do. No questions. Now, I told you about Joe Vogler. He was head of the AIP party. Bobby Miller was the one who put the steel in Alaska pipeline. Dr. Wood at the university, we wrote the last frontier petition. I explained that to you. But I'm going to tell you something else you don't know. There was a Fairbanks mayor named Bill Wally, and he did the research for us. And he called all over Juneau, and when they put the borough in, he said, well, this is a farce. There's no push for the boundary commission, and there's no push for the politicians to put in an alley borough. It's an outside interest. And he said, and it's got a lot of money. But anyway, so that's how that started out many years ago. And then, anyway, as I'm going on here, I have a demand, and I'm going to stop now because my adversaries are going to see this really well. So I want to tell you in the beginning what it is I want. I want this thing in Alaska, of course, cleaned up, but if I get my rights back, that means that the system will be pretty well repaired. But, ladies and gentlemen, I want my farm back at Kobiag, Alaska, and I want the woman that has the title to be reimbursed by the state of Alaska, and no money's to be exchanged. But since my background is Mennonite in my belief in my faith, I'll tell you what I can't do. I can't take money from a lawsuit, and even though I lost a lot of money, I'm not going to ask for the money back. Because in my belief, in my faith, and my love, I can't do that. I can't make money off a political suit. That's what got me in trouble fighting for my farm in the first place. So this is the thing what I did. When my farmers tried to sell my farm like 3 times, and everybody was trying to buy it, they said something was wrong, I predict. It looks like to me, so they backed out. They backed out because I'm trying to buy it back too. Anyway, so what happened was this person that got my farm, I can't get her name. All of the records have her blocked out. I don't have a name, I don't have an address. They won't let me know who it is because I want to go home. And I'll do what I can to get it back. So they won't let me know who has it. So then I got to hire a private investigator. And I won't say any names about a lot of people today because I can't, especially attorneys that's helped me. And a judge that's also helped me a lot. I won't say his name, but I'll tell you the results. Anyway, I got her name and address, and I went to the lower 48. And I went to Colorado Springs, Colorado, and I found a really nice restaurant. And then I called her up, and I said, hey, I'm William Nemec, can you have my farm? I want to go home. I says, if you're losing money or anything, the state owes you, or I'll find some way, but I want to go back. I told her I worked 35 years, and I went through everything from fighting bears and invading everything to no money and walking through the highway 50 below hitchhiking to work. I said, I went through a terrible, hard years and a hard life to become an Alaska farmer, and I earned my land by my own sweat, and I want it back. I want to go home. Well, anyway, as I was talking to this individual, she was trying to shake me down, and she told me my military history, when I'm born, how old I am, my career everywhere I've worked. She had me right down to the wire trying to push the right buttons to cause an incident. And I was really shocked to hear that. Her name was Astra, and she lived in Colorado Springs. Anyway, so then she changed the conversation, and I was working on another program to get some financing. And I have good credit at Mount McKinley Bank, so I was going to have another business project because the state is really thorough about destroying me, so they destroyed all my credit and all my investments. Everything I did was controlled by the state. So I started a new business, and then that's what got me into court at the time of the election as governor. They took that one. But the thing of it is I fought back all the time by keeping my integrity as a Christian and to be nonviolent and not to be evil over fighting over money. But I just wanted my land back and to go home. So anyway, that's how I got to that point. But the lady in Colorado Springs, I don't know anything about her. It surely looks like to me that she's part of the political body that's trying to destroy me, but I know nothing. I don't know anything about it. And then, anyway, that's how far I went to try to get my land back. But what I did was, this is my second time in exile, so I get a hold of a friend of mine's daughter, and I said, hey, I want your dad's old place. I got to get back in business. And I made a contract with her. And I go back and I do, most of my contract is up. The idea was to move about 17 semi-truckloads of junk and clean up a big acreage. And then I was supposed to repair a house and put it in nice condition. Well, I got the huge job done. As I was doing the work, my friends, I have a lot of friends in Nenana and Healy, they all kicked in and helped me. They worked on their own time. And we cleaned up many, many acres. Okay, I'm sorry about that quick incident, but we had a young fella that had a real problem, and he's okay. But I had to stop the movie. He needed help. And he's okay, and anyway, get back to what we're doing. Oh, incidentally, so I'm talking about kids, I gotta tell you what I do. I have 2 children here in Mindanao I take care of, and they're terrific. And the way of life here is really hard, and I'm proud of them. Anyway, just thought I'd bring that up. Anyway, so going back to where I was at, about Alaska and the things that's happened in the past. Well, the past, I can go up and I can explain to you my reasons and cost. Everything, but that's just me kind of whining on your shoulder. What I want is my farm back. And many bad incidents happened to me, but the thing of it is this: you have my email address there, and I'll tell you what. I have that sign that you've seen in the beginning of the video. It has a misspelling. I'm having much more of them printed, and they will start showing up in Alaska. And so when I'm bumper stickers, and I'm going to move a real campaign. And the thing of it is when I was thinking about this, when Dick Randolph ran for Libertarian Party, and we cleaned up the state, it was really a hard thing to do then too. And everything had changed, and everything improved, and Alaska just turned around. It was terrific. I want to tell you a little bit more, kind of bouncing around here because I'm not a professional politician, I'm not in Hollywood. But I want to tell you about some politicians I know and how the state is. I knew a politician, he was the head of the state legislature at the end of the pipeline. His name was Bob Edisworth. And when I first met him, I had a mining contract. I'm the hungriest man in the world. Man, I was upset. And then finally, when we were arguing, I realized something. This guy knows what he's talking about, and he has a reason to be upset. And then I just got quiet and I started listening to him. And he had been in political office a long time, and he said, did you know Alaska is really vulnerable for a wicked takeover because of the kind of people we are and where we're at in business? He was a businessman. He loved the Constitution, but he believed the Constitution was all about business, protecting the right to build something and be something. And anyway, as I listened to him talk about other people, I was pretty young then. He said, you know the problem with politicians? He says they are not smart. He said when they have to do something or be something, they don't know how to look, hear, see, and think. He says they don't look at everything that's there compared to the law that's done already. They don't think about everything. They don't see about everything, and they don't think about everything. And he said, look, hear, see, and think. Well, later I raised children, and I told my children when they got into trouble, I was sounding like the honorary man, like he was. Look, hear, see, and think. And I'm going to tell you, that man was smart. And he owned a thing called, I think, Spitman Engineering in Fairbanks, and he built the refineries in Valdez for the grain, in Delta Junction, and I've learned a lot from him in a few days, more than if I went to college and got a degree in that area. And anyway, he was really sharp, and his name Bob Ellsworth. He's not with us anymore. But I want to tell you in the middle of this about some Alaska politicians in the past. Another person that was a tremendous governor was Wally Hickel. And I'm going to tell you, Wally Hickel, he had a thing going for him you wouldn't believe what it was. He had strength and smart. Wally Hickel had a wife that was absolutely amazing. And she was standing behind him, and she pushed, and she ran the state with him. And I'm going to tell you, they went after Wally Hickel, the same people that background of the state that's in power now. Anyway, they tried to get him out of his job because he removed the money from the Department of Education, because he said the job of the school is reading, writing, arithmetic, not political controls. Anyway, so when they had him about tied down in a knot, Mrs. Hickel went on every radio station in Alaska, every talk show. And the first thing she would say is, Mrs. Hickel, she loved her husband. And this woman was strong and smart. And I never to this day, when I see a statue in Alaska about people and about this honorary person, that woman deserved. These people are all gone now. But I just wanted to tell you something in Alaska history what we should be proud of. Some of the public leaders were really good. Anyway, back to where I'm at, since I'm not a professional speaker person, you'll have to let me kind of bounce around, I guess. Anyway, my goal is to clean up the Superior Court of the state of Alaska. Now, everybody in Alaska is afraid and being real quiet when they get legal issues, because when you get to the top of the food chain, they eat you alive. I have a friend that ran for lieutenant governor with me and had to stop. I had another friend that ran lieutenant governor with me and had to stop because it was unbelievable. Anyway, one of my friends, after that, is in trouble with Superior Court, and I mean, they're cooking him. They're taking everything he owns and everything he built all of his life. Another whole story, nothing to do with this. But I'm going to go back one more time to tell you about a law in Mississippi. The Sovereignty Commission of the in-house state government with a special interest is no different than the administration you have in the state of Alaska right now. They're controlling things their own way, and if you're their opposition, you're going to be out of the state, out of work, or you're going to be in trouble. Now, if you ask around and talk to people, you'll find a lot of small contractors and trucking companies have left Alaska because they supported the AIP. They got on radio stations in Fairbanks, and they were dancing around how great it is to be a free Alaskan, and these people nailed them. And this is not a conspiracy. This is real life injury. Now, in Mississippi, the injuries were brought to court, and these people had to account for them. That was not a conspiracy. It was conspired, but it was not. And neither is this today in Alaska. These people are going to have to be brought out and shown, and that's what I'm going to do the best that I can. Now, back to my farm. I miss it. I loved it a lot. I fight for it. But more important is somebody else don't live with a farm. Now, I learned after the years of arguing what the real adversary was. I didn't know most of my life, and I know now. Joe Vogler was a friend of mine, and he was murdered, and other people were hurt, and they grabbed control because the AIP party was running the state. Wally Hickel was the governor by the AIP. This is independent people. They're both. That's the reason this last election was so fudged, because they never want an independent person to get popular and win another election. They got a way to manipulate socially, and it is a devious, bad plan, this government. There can never be another Libertarian Party or another Wally Hickel under the current election system that you have, because it's massive Marxist engineering. It's called, the right name you call it is colonial dialectics, Agenda 21. Now, as I'm working with you, I'm going to teach you about Agenda 21. I'll back up to the main course of the menu, Agenda 21. In the year 2030, The United Nations says that there should be no army in the world except the one with the blue helmets, the UN army. The conflict in Russia, the conflict with China, you got to back up and get smart because these guys are in control. Now, the state of Alaska somehow has become a testing ground, a proving ground, and a power play to issue Agenda 21. When Joe Vogler was there, he was saying that the state of Alaska was illegally made by political means of state, well, which is true, but they become a state in Eisenhower, Illinois. Remember, I watched Eisenhower when he said he made it a state. But anyway, the thing of it is that the issue of the attitude of people that want to go back and make themselves above the law or above the Constitution for a personal agenda like these boys in Mississippi did, well, these boys in Alaska are doing it too. And you remember the word I just said, boys. A man don't do that. These are boys. But anyway, Agenda 21 is what I'm fighting. Why cost me my farm, my family? I didn't know it at the time until I had to do a massive amount of research and a massive amount of pain of survival to learn what it is. Now, the people in Alaska have a special interest that's in power, and you should. And now, you guys in the public, you ask questions and talk to people. Learn yourself. Don't go by something I said here. But this is the thing. The Utah political base is very controlling of the whole judicial system. And the thing of it is you want to remember, don't violate the right of somebody's wanting to believe something for your own right to believe what you want. What you have to do is uphold the rule of law for all rights to be fair and all rights to have freedom, even the ones you don't like. So we'll leave it at that. But the thing of it is, the money and the power in the state of Alaska over the Agenda 21, the people in the UN absolutely believe, and a lot of it's because of Joe Vogler. Joe Vogler is pushing on the UN. The UN believes that the rebellion against their plan is going to come from Alaska. And it cost Joe Vogler his life, in my opinion, for sure. And it cost Ted Stevens his life, in my opinion, for sure. But anyway, that's where we're at with Agenda 21. Now, I don't know how much time I can put on a video before they limit it. So what I'm going to do now is explain where I'm at really fast, and then get back into it if I can continue or maybe start a new video. So this is the goal. The goal is to ask for your support with me. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a veteran. So you're a veteran, I'm asking for your help. Now, I'm 11 Bravo 30, 76 Yankee 30. I got out at my tour. I was going to stay in the service and make a career. I had 2 MOSs by the time I was 20 years old. But when we pulled out of the Vietnam War and what President Ford did, I was disgusted. So I didn't stay in the service. I was going to Fort Lewis, Washington. I was a regular Army soldier, and I wanted to be an officer. And I got out of the service when I ETS because of what my country had lied about and done. So just want to let you know that if you're a veteran, I want your help. I'm in a broken arrow condition. I lost everything, and I'm not whining on your shoulder. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm standing up with my feet on the ground, wanting to fight back God's way. I'm not trying to be a bad politician or get anything. I don't want any money. I don't want any power. Ladies and gentlemen of Alaska, please help me get my farm back and help me clean up my state. I did 2 terms in office in Alaska. I ran for U.S. Congress, and then later I ran for U.S. Senate. And the thing of it is I don't want a political career. I want to get all this fight, all these years has been me trying to hang on to my little 160-acre farm. 30 years of fighting. And the things that's happened to me is unbelievable, but they're believable. I'm here. Anyway, so what I'm going to do is be online with my email address. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to go an extra mile and please try to give me a hand. I got another business opportunity and things that I'm working in. Now, ladies and gentlemen, the state of Alaska, when I campaigned on the radio, I'm going to say it out loud, they're suffering from three things. Of course, I'm a conservative Christian, so here's what they are. Power, money, and one of socialism. That's what these politicians are. They have PMS. They want the power, money, and socialism. And I said that when I was campaigning for governor, and I am saying it again. So anyway, this is my story. Now, one thing I'm going to do on this channel is make it kind of interesting. I'm going to be going in the jungle, way where pretty rough conditions, and I'm going to make a video there, and I'm going to show you some things that you just think are out of this world. I think they're out of this world. One thing I want to tell you before we go, I have a great fear here. I'm not a fear of the gorillas or fighting or anything, but ladies and gentlemen, I am scared of cobras. Cobras scared the daylights on me. I mean, I see dangerous people and dangerous all kinds of things, but that cobra, that's more scary to me than any grizzly bear. And anyway, so I'll just tell you that I am a brave man, but I'm afraid of that thing, just so you know. Anyway, I'm going to close for today because I'm getting kind of long-winded. But I am a ham radio operator, KL2PQ. Ladies and gentlemen, I love America. I believe in this. I believe this law, this book, this way of life built America to be the greatest nation in the world. And I love it. I love being a ham radio operator. My ham radio is KL2PQ. And I'm going to ask for people all over the world and for help. And I've learned the Morse code 3 times, and I'm going to use it again. But I don't retain the Morse code. I don't know why. But I'm doing it over again. And anyway, I'm going to ask for help everywhere. This country that I live in now has been very good to me. Intelligence officers have helped me. I've got a security clearance once, and I'm going to get another one before something else. But the thing of it is, it's not America. It's not the same. The rules are different. The ways of life are different. But one thing that's happened in this country, even though conditions can get hard, what happened to me on my land could never happen here. Here, the father owning land and building a farm and farming is sacred. There's no court in this country that will ever take land away from a man that earned it. Oh man, that would be one of the biggest things I would never do. In this nation here that I'm in, it's a strong Christian nation. This is the only Christian nation after the fall of Vietnam that's a Christian nation in Southeast Asia. When I was young, South Vietnam and this country here was Christian nations. Now, where I live here is rough. There's martial law here. I mean, it has a bad day and a good day, but they have one thing going for them here, and that's this. And ladies and gentlemen, when I'm done, I'm going to leave now, and I don't know how to be the best spokesman in the world. I am a statesman, though, and so what I want to do is just one thing. I'm going to close this in prayer, and then I'm going to make another video, but I'm going to show you about the jungle here, and about another project I'm doing to come back to Alaska and fight for my farm. Now look I'm not whining for sympathy. I do want some help. You guys please jump up and help me, because I spent everything I have in my life and everything I have to get my farm back with being nonviolent, and it didn't work. I am hanging on to the rule of law, and I'm hanging on to this rule of law, and I want it to come about. And so anyway, as I close today, I'm going to say a prayer, because this is my heart, how I believe. Dear Lord, we pray for Alaska. We pray for the people there to be happy, to be free and independent. And we love them, and we love the way of life. We love the bush, and we love the people, and we love the tribal governments that have real republics. The real republics and the tribal government are good. And Lord, we please put the armor around Alaskan people. And please bind Alaska Superior Court. And please make the truth that sets you free, keep everybody free in Alaska. We ask for your name, in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. We love you, Lord, and we thank you for asking. Amen.